We just saw a clip of Trigger Warning available for streaming in a couple of Fridays only on Netflix, which you can see right here on Roku, starring Jessica Alba and our friend here on the Rich Eisen Show, Anthony Michael Hall. And brother, when I saw you in the back and I told you I'm a big fan, I have been a big fan for a while.
Thank you, Rich.
And you kind of were saying something, watching a clip of yourself playing a dad to a bunch of other, you know, like kid actors in a way. They're not kids, but they're like in their
Well, listen,
20s
I
or
started
whatever.
late myself, Rich. First of all, I've been a fan of yours for a long time, too. Thank you for having me today, man.
You bet.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah. So I just had a son last year, you know, in the year where De Niro and Pacino had a kid. I feel young again. All due respect to those greats. But honest to God, it was really fun. These are two very talented actors, Mark Webber and Jake Weary. And, yeah, they're like my Cain and Abel, you know. And,
Right.
as it turns out, they're all kind of complicit in on this. But it's a real kind of good versus evil, good fun, revenge thriller. And Jessica's excellent in the film, and it's a fun ride, man.
And everyone should watch it Friday, June 21st. And you're also going to be in season 3 of Reacher, huh?
Yeah, I just got back. I was shooting in Toronto for the last year. We had to sit out the strike, wait that out, and then we started shooting again in November.
Right.
And we just wrapped. Actually, they're going to finish next month. But great show, man. They really upped the ante on the action, and it's a lot of fun. It was a great crew we worked with. I was in Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about Reacher quite a bit here on the program. Has he let himself go? What is he? Does he let
I told him, I
himself go?
said, listen, hit the gym. You're looking a little skinny. No, he's a talented guy, man. Alan's a good man. He's a stand-up guy. Very involved in the process.
He said he eats pizzas. Did he eat any pizzas on the
He's
set?
eating everything. They're handing him tuna. They're giving him everything.
Are
He
you
eats a
serious?
lot. No, he's a big boy. He eats a lot. He does. He's on that program, man. He's got to stay active. He's in the gym a lot. And good guy, man. I enjoyed working with him. I had fun.
And that show is a major hit.
Major hit.
right
It's
now.
created by a guy named Nick Santora, who got his
Right.
break years ago. He wrote an episode of The Sopranos, and then he was off to the races. Nick is a great guy. He's had about 8 shows, including Prison Break, a bunch of good shows.
Right.
Yeah.
So when did you get started in this industry, sir?
Believe it or not, Rich, I started way back in 1976. I did a play with Steve Allen when I was 8 years old. So I'm 56 now.
The late night talk host, pretty much?
Yeah,
Steve Allen?
So I started many years ago in the 70s, and I was 8 years old. I've had a 48-year run at this point. It's pretty amazing.
Okay, and your big break was what, would you say?
When I did Vacation with Chevy, I was 14. Remember National Lampoon's Vacation?
14 years.
Russ, the feet, remember?
Ruben Rusty.
You were 14 years old on
1983, man, or 82.
All right, so there's different ways that we can go about this, but the normal way that we go about this on this program is we have a segment called Celebrity True or False.
Okay.
Where we ask you a bunch of questions about your filmography, your history, and we've noticed a couple things on the internet tubes that may be true or may not be.
All right,
and
I'm
we
ready.
ask you, okay, and we have some great production value to start it.
Yes,
Hit it,
sir.
please.
Ready.
Hit it, please.
Celebrity True or False?
You can't handle the truth.
There you go. That's our.
I love Jack buttoning it, right?
That's nothing like Jack buttoning it, for sure.
Jack is the man.
All right, first up for you, Anthony Michael Hall, Celebrity True or False. Again, you just mentioned you were 14 years old when you were on vacation, right?
That's right, yep.
Okay, true or false? You tried to sneak onto the vacation set just to watch Beverly D'Angelo's nude scene.
Guilty as charged. and it was supposed to be a spoof of Psycho, right? So Chevy approaches the shower and pulls the curtain back, and Miss D'Angelo was topless, and I was 14, and I was on set somehow, just bird dogging from a corner.
I mean, you're 14
You know
years
what I'm saying?
old.
That's it. What could I say? Puberty kicked in, boys. What am I going to do?
Makes sense.
I got promptly kicked off the set by Matty Simmons, the late great Matty Simmons. God rest his soul.
Is that right? Is that what
Yeah,
happened? Because
yeah.
that's not what a pro would do. I guess.
Of course, but I caught him looking when I got to the set, so it's okay. He's all right. He was a great guy. God bless him.
What was it like to be on a set with Chevy Chase at age 14 in a National Lampoon movie? What was that
Well,
like?
we're in the same zone, I'm sure, age-wise, Rich. So you remember?
Yeah, I'm 54, about to be 55.
Yes, sir. So I'm 56. Yeah, I mean, Saturday Night Live was everything to me as a kid. I used to ask my mother to stay up late in the 70s and that great original cast with
Right.
Chevy and Bill Murray and all those guys. So I loved it. I was just an honor, to work with him. And that summer I got to work with John Candy. It's incredible. All the people that I got to work with, Imogene Coca. It was just like a lesson in comedy, that whole summer. And this is before effects. So this is actually the whole crew in 1982. We actually hit the road. We shot that first scene in the car lot where we pick up the car from Eugene Levy. And then after that, the crew literally got on planes. A lot of the crew guys actually schlepped the trucks out to the Midwest. And we started in Colorado and worked our way back through Arizona.
You
Grand
literally
Canyon.
went on the road.
Yeah, literally the whole crew went on that half a vacation across the country. It was incredible. So we did three stops in Colorado. Then we went to Arizona, and then we made our way back to L.A. So the crew actually made that trek.
Wow, and Christy Brinkley just happened to be driving by. Isn't that amazing?
Don't get me started on the SI February swimsuit issues. Remember those, boys? Little Scotch tape. Mom, I'm okay. Leave me alone. Knock before you come in.
I thought you were washing your hair.
It turns into the scene from Weird Science. Right on. There's
That's
a through
it.
line here, boys.
Oh,
Yeah.
there is indeed, Anthony Michael Hall. All right, celebrity true or false. Next up, true or false. You had a part in casting John Cusack in 16 Candles and Paul Gleason in The Breakfast Club. Is that true or false?
This is also true. Because of the late, great John Hughes and his coolness, at one point we were prepping 16 Candles, 1984, in Chicago.
Right.
And they brought in a bunch of young guys to play my geek buddies. And I couldn't believe it, but John pulled me aside. He goes, "Look, they're got to be your friends in the film, so I want you to cast them." So, and he loved John Cusack too. We both were fans of John and Joan. They were both from Chicago. So I did cast John, yeah, and that was to my amazement to this day. And who was the other person you mentioned?
Paul Gleason, who played the assistant principal in the Breakfast Club. There he is saying, "Don't mess with the bull, you'll get the horns."
So there's a great story there. So I was a huge fan of Eddie Murphy when I was a kid, and we were shooting 16 Candles, and I went and saw Trading Places. And you guys remember how funny Trading Places was, right? Billy Valentine, come on, he was hilarious.
Billy Ray Capricorn.
Yeah, exactly. Billy Ray, Capricorn. So I had suggested Paul to John Hughes because there's a scene in Trading Places where he's at a payphone, right? And the old lady comes up and he does I won't get into it now, a little expletive, F off to the old lady. And it was hilarious. I just thought that was funny. So at the time, John was thinking about casting the old guy that played Nick Colasanto, who played Coach on Cheers.
That's who he was thinking.
That's who he was going to get. Yeah, for that role
to be in charge of you in detention and
Nelson Club. And everybody else, exactly. And then I just suggested that he see Trading Places, and then John saw it and he cracked up. So that's how it led to him meeting with Paul Gleason.
So Clarence Beeks telling a woman to F off at a payphone.
That's all it took.
Because you saw Trading Places and you told John Hughes about it.
Yeah, and I was a huge fan of Eddie's, as I said, and Dan Aykroyd too. That was just such a classic movie. So yeah, and he wound up playing the part. He was a great guy.
Okay, so what was it like on the set of The Breakfast Club? What was that? What's your memory?
It was
of
like
that?
filming a play. I mean, we had about 8 or 10 pages of scenes to do every day. And it was kind of heavy, kind of dramatic, you know. So it was like filming a play. But I remember we shot for only about 35 days. It was a quick shoot, man. And they had built that library inside of this high school that had been shut down, where we shot at. And it's funny. This is back in the day of the USFL. So we actually shared the facility with the Chicago Blitz in the original USFL.
Wow.
So we'd be on a break and I'd see Vince Evans walking down the hallway with his linemen, Hey, Vince, how are you? And
no kidding.
Yeah, it's random stuff. But we shared that high school facility, which it was that affluent Chicago suburb, or this high school had just shut down. So we shared it with the Chicago Blitz. Anyway, that set was built inside the gym of this high school.
So was that the only USFL Molly Ringwald connection in the history of both?
I think it's the only one we could find. Yeah.
Pretty much?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it true you went through a growth spurt shooting that movie as well?
I did. I was a kid, man. I was 16. I still looked about 12, I think. And then after that, I sprouted up. Yeah. And then we actually started dating, which surprised me more than anything, Molly and I. As kids. Yeah.
Through meeting each other on the set?
Well, she hated me all through 16 Candles, but when we got to the Breakfast Club, something changed in her. I don't know. I guess she saw.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
She saw the light.
So you're shooting 16 Candles with Molly Ringwald.
Yeah.
She's just not that into you.
She was getting, no kidding. Yeah, she was giving me the full Farmer Ted treatment there. But then on Breakfast Club, things changed.
Wow.
We'd have to ask Molly why. Let's get her on the phone right now.
That's good. We could do that. She's welcome here anytime. Certainly the 15-year-old version of me would say the same thing as well. And the last one on that one, is it true you beat out Jim Carrey for the role of Farmer Ted?
I heard about this years later, and I'm amazed by that. I met Jim at some Laker games. I was friendly with Dr. Buss, who was a great guy. I used to see Jim at the old Forum. But I read that I guess he was up for it. I think that's great. I'm a huge Jim Carrey fan.
All right, now I got to pull on this strand, even though I don't know the answer to this question. Look, what do you think about? Hold on a second. So you got a good Jerry Buss story? You got a good Jerry Buss?
Well, no, I don't really have any stories about Doc, but he was always very good to me. I have a good friend named Rick Payne who worked very closely with Doc for many years.
Okay.
And I was a frequent guest to Laker games back in the 90s when I first moved here.
Okay.
So Doc was great. He would always have me in to the clubhouse, and I'd go to the Forum Club for the dinners. Remember, he used to hold court there?
Yeah.
And the Forum really was the Forum of L.A.
Is that so?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. But Doc was a great guy. He was very generous, very kind-hearted. Good man.
All right, next up, true or false, Anthony Michael Hall, you became friends with Mike Tyson when you were both teenagers.
True story. I was at a Tyson fight. Now, this is where it gets kind of 6 degrees. It's funny.
Okay.
Paul Gleason took me to see Tyson fight Reggie Gross. It was June 13th. I checked this yesterday. June 13th, 1986. Mm-hmm. He knocked Gross out in the first round. But before the fight that night, we went to Charlie O's. Remember the old Charlie O's at Madison Square Garden?
Sure, of course.
And Paul introduced me to Don King, and I met the greatest. I met Muhammad that day, too. It was incredible. So that was a big day for me, way back in 86.
And then you befriended Mike Tyson? Did he?
Tyson and I have been friends ever since. I mean, of course, there have been long stretches where we don't see each other, but we stay in contact, and we reconnected really well a couple of years ago. So we shoot each other texts all the time, keep up with each other.
Please tell me the connection was 16 Candles, was it?
No, you know what it was?
What did he see?
Well, he had seen the John Hughes films, and after that knockout that day, I remember he came out of the ring and he saw him and he goes, "You're my favorite actor." You know? And I was like, "Oh shit, what's up, Mike? That's awesome." Oh wait, we gotta.
It's okay. Go
okay,
ahead.
sorry. That
No,
anyway.
Go ahead.
So that's where I met Tyson, man. Yeah. And then I would have parties. I had a house in New Jersey at the time, and Tyson would come through, and we actually went on a double date once. We took some girls out to a play at Lincoln Center. Go figure, right? Hall and Tyson at Lincoln Center.
A double date with
two
Mike
dates.
Tyson.
Not only that we were at the theater, but then we had a double date going. That was very civilized. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Wow. Dude, man.
Funny shit, right? I know.
For sure. No
Yeah.
doubt about it.
Yeah.
Next up, true or false, the weird science scene of the missile coming up through the floor had to be reshot because you, what's the word for it? Farted, causing the rest of the cast and crew to crack up. Is that true or not?
I remember letting go a few times on the set. I don't know if that was, I don't know. Maybe did the missile stop working, or was it me? I don't know. I might have crop dusted that day. I'm not sure.
So this actually happened.
I guess so. Yeah.
All right. You got a good
Yeah, I
story
was
from
very
Weird Science other than that weird science taking
I
place?
think that's about enough. Yeah. I remember that missile. It was stage 27 at Universal. It's funny because we shot on location in Chicago, and then when we got back to L.A., we were on the lot at Universal. So I guess I was a little too comfortable working with John Hughes there.
There you go, ladies
I was
and
farting
gentlemen.
on the set, ladies and gentlemen.
No, it's okay. Maybe blame it on craft services. Last one for you, sir. Here we go.
Okay.
True or false? 2 roles you almost got were Nuke LaLoosh in Bull Durham and Private Joker in Full Metal Jacket.
Yes. I met the director on Bull Durham, and I have to say, I was a dumb young kid, and I didn't handle that well.
Ron Shelton, you're talking
Yeah,
about?
Ron Shelton. He was a good man, and at the time, I wasn't in a good place, and he was willing to give me that opportunity, and I screwed that up, to be very honest. I can be very candid about that.
Sure.
But I was a kid, so I did make mistakes, absolutely. The Private Joker thing is true, too. I was called by my agent right around the time I was doing Weird Science. This is 1984, 85. And he gave me a call, and he said, Mr. Kubrick is doing a Vietnam epic, and he's interested in you playing one of the platoon members. And then I got a call 2 days later saying he was going to call me on Saturday. And I flipped out. It was incredible. But
Stanley Kubrick.
yeah, was going to call me the day after. My agent now calling me on a Friday saying he's going to call you Saturday.
Did he call you?
He did. So I was up pacing in my room. It's like Oz is going to call, I pick up the phone, and there's Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
It was an amazing conversation. He talked about his favorite filmmakers, Chaplin, Eisenstein, Russian filmmaker, a lot of great people. And he paid me a great compliment. He said he had screened 16 Candles a couple times, and that I was his favorite actor he'd seen since he saw Jack and Easy Rider. And that was like I've dropped the phone. Forget about a mic drop, phone drop. I was just like, wow.
Right.
So it was incredible. And what ensued was, to be very honest, Rich, it was about a 10-month negotiation. It was pretty wild. And unfortunately, we just didn't come to terms on it. So, I don't have any regrets in my life, but I think that's the closest thing I would say I've come to one. Because I've always remained a big fan of Kubrick, and I love his work, to this day. He's one of the masters,
man. Have him call you up and pay you that compliment.
It was amazing. It was an amazing thing. So, unfortunately, it didn't work out. But, you got to wish everybody success and just wish people well and keep on moving. And then it's funny, I ran into Matthew Modine a couple years later after the fact, Rich.
Right.
And I saw him in Midtown Manhattan. I was right near the plaza. And he saw me, he said, Hall, hey, what's up, Matt? I go, how long did you wind up shooting on Full Metal Jacket? He goes, 54 weeks. I went, whoa. So Kubrick was a master, but he was also very detail-oriented. He would shoot a picture for a year, and he did.
Yeah, a lot of Kubrick moments we've heard from. We've had Vincent D'Onofrio here telling some stories of being Private Pile on that set.
Sure.
He told some stories about shooting that scene and talking to Kubrick and what that was like to work for him and how painstaking it really was, the process.
And Kelly LeBrock, to her credit, she's still a friend. She's a great lady. She took me up. She knew Jack, and so when I was doing Weird Science, she picked me up one night and surprised me. Took me up to Jack's house. And at the
Jack
time, Nicholson.
Okay.
Yeah, it was incredible. When I was 17, it was a very good year.
Yeah.
We went up to Nicholson's house, and it was amazing because I'm a kid. We're driving in his driveway, and there's Jack shooting free throws by himself in his driveway. And he turned around and did a classic Nicholson with the open palm, pushed the hair back, and looked at us. I can't do Jack, but
go ahead.
I said, "Come on in," So we go into the house. He comes down. He goes, "I'm going to take a shower. I'll be down in a few minutes." So then we knock on the door. Angelica Houston opens the door. She lets us in. She's looking at Kelly LeBrock like, Who told her to come over with some kid? What's going on here? So we sat down with Jack, and long story short, Rich, he loved Nicholson loved Kubrick. He said he would do it again in a second. He said every single shot, minimum 30 takes, he would do. So he was obsessive. He was very detail-oriented, but he's one of the masters.
So he's telling, okay. So Kelly LeBrock brings you over to Jack Nicholson's house.
That's right.
He's shooting hoops, goes to take a shower. Angelica Houston lets you in, and he starts telling Shining stories?
I swear to you. After about 10 minutes, and we walk in, there's beautiful paintings. They had Sinatra playing. Angelica was making dinner for them, and it was just quite a scene. So when he came down, he sat down with me and said, "So Kelly tells me you're going to work with Stanley." And I was like, I couldn't believe I'm sitting across from Nicholson, And he had nothing but great things to say,
Damn, man. Wow. What was John Hughes like?
John Hughes was great, man. He had a great sense of humor. He was a great guy to work for and work with. Very collaborative. Loved to laugh. We love music. He would take us out to some great blues clubs in Chicago. We'd go to Kingston Mines and classic blues places. He'd pick us up, me and Molly, go to record stores. I mean, he was just a fun guy. He was like a big older brother.
I mean, just record shopping.
Yeah.
You, John Hughes, and
Molly
Ringwald.
He was just really cool. Like, he would make mixtapes. That's why he had such an ear for music, because he wrote all those music cues into his films, So he really kind of created that style for himself.
Did he find Simple Minds? Is that what you're saying? Like
He did, Rich. And he had such a good ear for music. It wound up inspiring Universal to give him a vanity record label deal. So he had Hughes Entertainment. He was doing his films, and he also had Hughes Records. And he would single out a guy like Keith Forsey. He had produced Billy Idol back in the day, and Simple Minds. And he would hire a guy like Keith Forsey, and Keith Forsey went and got the Stray Cats, and they did another rendition of the old 16 Candles song.
Right.
Or he found Simple Minds. So he was really attuned to music. He had a great ear for music, All those 80s synth bands, too, all the stuff that was in the movie.
Hell yeah.
Comes from him, man. He would be finding all that music. He really did.
The soundtracks of the movies were just as popular as the movies.
Yeah, back in the day, man. Human League and Thompson Twins and all that 80s stuff. Yeah, he had his finger on the pulse. He really did.
I'm going back to my prom days now. I'm going to break out in a cold sweat. Be careful. I mean, we are pretty much the same age here. And man, I could ask you questions for days. You were on SNL for a year, correct? That for one season you were?
Yeah, probably.
Robert Downey Jr.,
Downey,
right?
I brought Downey to Lorne Michaels' attention, and I got Iron Man a gig. I'm still waiting for him to return the favor. Iron Man, you bastard. No, he's a great guy. We're good friends. We actually are developing a project through his company with his wife. Yeah,
that's great.
A TV show we're developing. But to your question, who'd you ask me about?
Robert Downey and Joan Cusack was on that cast too,
yeah, it
right?
was incredible. I mean, SNL is such an incredible show. Like, you come in on a Monday, people don't realize you do a 6-day week. I mean, you come in, you're writing around the clock.
Right.
You pair off with the writers. We do a read-through on Wednesday. Lorne invites the department heads and the cast.
Yeah.
And basically, whatever garners the most laughs, he goes back to his office and starts doing the board. The index cards with the 3 columns.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And then you rehearse the show, man, from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, around the clock. People don't realize. You're there 12 hours a day. So it's a pretty intense job. And it's like theater, stand-up, rock and roll, everything.
All rolled into one. Because
Yeah.
you got to do it live at the end of the week.
You're not kidding.
Right. And so, and is it true, I guess, last one for you here, you still hold the record for youngest cast member in the history of Saturday Night
Yeah, on
Live?
the worst season in the history of 50 seasons. But other than that, it was a great experience.
You were 17?
17, man.
Dude, you're 17 on SNL?
was a great experience, man. I mean, I was at home watching Eddie Murphy 2 years before.
Yeah,
that,
you were
so
saying, like, you were
really,
talking about how you helped put Paul Gleason in, you know, The Breakfast Club because you're watching Eddie Murphy and Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, as a kid, man, even in the 70s, I was a little kid. I loved the show. I've always been fascinated with it. And I loved it, you know. But then I was watching the Eddie Murphy years, and obviously, you know, Billy Crystal, Piscopo, all those guys, man. They were just phenomenal. You know? And the women, too, of SNL, great.
And then Dark Knight as well, right? You were in Batman Begins. I forget which one.
I was in The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan as well.
Only film I ever made where it made so much money. I got a nice big bump in the mail one day. Got a $50,000 bonus. I went, damn, dude, it's good to be in a movie that makes a billion rather.
Hey,
is
man,
what I'm trying to say.
I got my latest residual check right here. I don't know if it's going to be.
There's $50K from Roku for you, Rich.
I don't know about that. No, I do open my residual checks on the air sometimes just
it's a good
to see.
Feeling.
Oh, dude, I'm honestly
We're blessed.
The 18 cents I get from that one time I was on.
Very nice. Very nice.
Seriously,
that can happen.
The
too.
CSI Miami checks, dude. They just keep coming in.
That's right. You've done a bunch of cameos, right? Yeah. Right on.
You know, you go ahead and ask a question before we let him go. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, Susie texted us this. These 80s movies, these classics, like, could they be made now? What would they look like? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Thank you for that question, dear.
That's apparently is Susie chiming in?
Yeah.
Okay, that's my wife.
Oh, hi, Mrs. Eisen. Nice to see you.
It's Susie Schuster.
Susie Schuster.
Yes, I guess.
Okay, got it. Excuse me.
That's okay. It's okay.
No, I think, look, some of the things haven't aged well. Some of that humor, I think, by today's standards, has not aged well. I mean, but the truth is, it was always done in a good spirit. I think there was a paradigm to John's work where all the characters in his film wind off a little better off than they started, which was the kind of model. So, with that said, he used humor to get there. You know, he was great at that. And he was really great, not just as a writer-director, Rich, but just how he let us try stuff. He was really collaborative. He was cool, open to the process. He was great.
Well, Susie was the impetus for this. We've got a 15, 13, and a 10-year-old at home. And she's like, let's show him The Breakfast Club.
Right.
Because my oldest is just going into high school.
Wow.
And my youngest son is just going into 7th grade in new school. And we kind of wanted to show him about how, you know, it doesn't matter what year you're in. There's a period of life where you're changing. Your old friendships are changing. Your sense of yourself is changing. And how things can change in in an afternoon sometimes.
That's a great point.
And we wanted to show that to him.
Yeah.
And, you know, but again, they're 15, 13, and 10 in a world where they're scrolling. And they couldn't believe that it was a movie that took place only on one day.
Right.
Like
I think there's also a really strong anti-bullying message there, because I think the lesson that I've taken from it all these years later, I've had a lot of experience, hundreds of people coming up to me talking about it. It's like group therapy, that film. But I think it's a great teachable moment that you gave it to your kids. I think it's great. It's an honor.
Your character in it has a very therapeutic moment. I mean, like that is that's like therapy. That scene at the end of Breakfast Club. You're revealing, you know, what sort of charade you're putting on for them, and everybody,
kids, they all share how they got there that day. Absolutely, and I think it's great, because I think the message is, no matter how different we all are, we're all basically cut from the same cloth. We all have the same desires and hopes, and I think it's a great message, you know, in the film.
It does stand the test of time on that front, for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Everybody should check out Trigger Warning, available for streaming on Friday, June 21st on Netflix, starring this man, Anthony Michael Hall, with Jessica Alba and more. And then, of course, when Reacher returns to Prime Video, Season 3, we will see you in that. And obviously in everything else that you have been in that just keeps on keeping on year after year, man.
Back at you.
Good to see you.
You too.
Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.